Inflation, deflation, higher rates, lower rates, tightening, loosening. A lot going on in the markets, a lot to talk about. Everything is not still awesome anymore, at least for the very moment. We'll see about that. We'll talk about it. We'll talk Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll talk the opposite of Miss Green, smart thermostats. We'll talk about ERCOT and the border wall here in Texas. A lot to talk about, a lot to get into. I am Gerardo Del Real, along with my co-host, the witty, the chartist, the technician, the father, the thinker, the hunter, Mr. Nick Hodge. This is episode 122 of Bizarro World. How are you, Mr. Hodge?
Triple witched, Gerardo. How's it going?
You're triple witched, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Things are good. Things are good. It's been a heck of a week in the markets. Let's get right into it. We have what I like to call the CNBC factor, right? The narrative factor, where for whatever reason, narratives get spun, and those narratives just always tend to be put together in a box with a bow tie by the people at CNBC to explain away everything, right? And most of the time, they're dead wrong. They're completely wrong about everything that's going on for the most part. But yes, the narrative now, all of a sudden, Nick, if you haven't heard, because I know you don't watch CNBC, is that deflation is the big threat, and that inflation really is transitory, and that the Fed might raise rates 2 years from now, and hold on to your hats, Nick. I mean, they might even do it next year, and all of a sudden the market is selling off, and had its worst week since January, if I'm not mistaken. So, do you buy any of that narrative explaining away the moves this week?
No, I don't think anyone has a real firm grasp on what's going on. I think there's a lot of things happening in the markets. I referenced the triple witching. In fact, it's quadruple witching with a lot of things, contracts expiring in the market. You had a Fed meeting. You had China dumping stocks. And it's interesting you mentioned CNBC. I had forgotten already that I actually had an exchange on Twitter this week with a gentleman from CNBC who was tweeting the same thing essentially about lumber. And his tweet was essentially in a very sarcastic tone, with a lumber chart saying, see, the inflation is transitory because the lumber is selling off. And I had to tweet him back and say, see, it's still up 160% in a year. Do you like paying 160% more for like lumber, for like basic goods and things? Because, pulling back to 160% up for the year doesn't mean that deflation is here. And it certainly doesn't mean that it's, that
inflation is transitory. Yeah,
exactly right. And then he sort of ended up talking himself in circles. And I was just sort of confused because
a one-man circle jerk is hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, we had a little back and forth, and it was clear that he had a narrative that he was trying to push forward. And he said that first he said that coming housing correction was going to take lumber back to a 5-year equilibrium. And then I said, well, 5 years is transitory. You're still smoking crack. And then he said, well, then if you think inflation is coming, you should own a house. And I said, well, I thought housing was going to correct and take lumber prices down. What the fuck are you talking about, a CNBC guy? And so anyway, he wished me luck and went on doing whatever it is he does. And so anyway, all that to say, I'm not really sure what you asked, but it's like I said, it's quadruple witching day. So we'll get a handle next week. But, rates spiked up and then pulled back. A little bit of spike in rates going on in the short term, like the 2-year gold, obviously,
right,
down $100 or so. Yep. as rates spiked. And so the dollar spiking as well. I don't think that's going to last. And then you had the Chinese stuff with the copper, which is I didn't even look before the podcast if I had to guess at 415 or 425 or something like that, and has got even room to go down from there, and is still at multi-year highs. And so I would also remind you that we had these talks in May and also in April, and we also mentioned volatility then, and volatility, as far as the VIX is concerned at least, is not to where it was then. And so, I think you continue to approach whatever is coming, but I don't think whatever is coming is here yet. And we'll see you next week, I guess.
Well said. And I agree. I mean, everything is still awesome. It might not have been awesome this week for everybody. Sure in the heck didn't feel like it if your only position is being, which it shouldn't, right? Being long gold or long copper or long commodities. I'm heavily weighted towards that, but obviously hedge it with real estate and other things. And so I brought up the narrative point because I think it's the time in the market where it's going to be more and more important to call bullshit. And the people that are telling you that inflation is transitory clearly have a vested interest in telling you that. And so it's funny that you mentioned the exchange with the guy on Twitter, because context matters, right? And so yes, pull out a 1-year chart, pull out a 60-year chart, or 5 years, whatever it was that he was trying to highlight there. But it's more important to get it right than to be right. As in life, right, Nick? It's more important to get it right than to be right. And so just be careful out there, everyone, where you get your source of information from. Anybody that tells you they know exactly what's going to happen and how's it going to play out is lying to you. And so, yeah, let's get into gold. Gold closed at 1763, had itself a hell of a week. We've been saying for weeks that we thought, or I thought at the very least, that gold was going to break either $100 higher or $100 lower because the volatility was non-existent in the gold space. And then sure enough, all it took was a little whisper of maybe one day I'll raise rates by Mr. Powell, Sugar Daddy Jerome. And here we are at 1763. Silver followed down below 26, 25.81. Copper 419. How do you feel about all of those commodities 6 to 12 months from now, Nick?
I'll tell you what I wrote last week before I knew any of what I knew and saw this week. I was raising buy under prices on Rio Tinto, not to where they were, but in case of a coming pullback, like maybe we had this week. I raised buy under prices on Mag Silver, for example, which was down around $10. I raised that all the way to 21 while the stock was trading at 24. I guess where it pulled back to this week. Didn't get right to 21, but just above there. Jamming. I was raising prices on. I raised prices on Ivanhoe Mines, which is just entering production with a large copper mine in Africa, and so I think all those prices are maybe not higher, but remain at inflated levels where they're at now, right? Which is not transitory, and want to continue to be positioned in them, which is why I was advising increasing your exposure to copper and silver and not gold yet, though I've been looking more and more at the bigger names. What did I do today? I pulled up a Barrick chart and a Newmont chart, and I took a look at Kirkland because they announced a dividend that's actually looking quite attractive. And I looked at Wheaton and I looked at Franco, and they're not quite there yet for me, maybe for some other people, but I think they're getting close. There's some juniors that are there for sure. At 52-week lows, definitely worth buying. But on the whole, I think the complex is of stocks is holding up well. Gold and silver stocks, and there remains to be interest there, especially on the silver side.
Absolutely. Agree with all that. I think in 6 to 12 months, we look back and we're going to look at this little blip in the rising tide in the commodity space. And it's going to look like just that, right? So anyhow, let's pivot. Let's pivot a bit because there's a couple of things here in my now home state of Texas, Mr. Hodge, that irked me this week. So the first thing that irked me was that ERCOT, ERCOT, which is the entity that operates our state energy grid, sent me a nice email.
Love that center in Disney.
Sent me a nice email asking me to please turn my thermostat up higher, as in make it warmer in your house.
78 degrees.
78 degrees is what they're asking us to do. So I looked at that and I said, well, wait a minute. You know, when we had ice apocalypse here in Texas, I was told, me average Texan citizen, I was told that the reason the grid failed was because it wasn't equipped for the cold. It's equipped for the heat. And now it's fucking June. And here we are being told it's not equipped for the heat. You have to make it warmer in your house. So I was already a bit...
They're just transitory blackouts, Gerardo.
Transitory blackouts, right? It's funny because 35% of the new residents in Austin come from California. And it's interesting to me because a lot of them are leaving California to avoid the stupidity of politicians and inefficient government and, you know, extended lockdowns and businesses being taxed to death along with everyday citizens being taxed to death. And I could go on, but rolling blackouts are something in California that's been happening for years, if not decades, right? And so people are leaving and they're coming here, and it's awesome because tons of great new people that we've met and, you know, made acquaintances with. All of that is great. But it is interesting to me that we are now at a point in Texas where we can't even get this fucking grid to work the way that it's supposed to work properly in the middle of June. And what's that followed by? An announcement by Governor Abbott that he's going to solicit donations from around the country to build a border wall. Which, look, again, son of immigrant parents, came to this country illegally. You know the story. I've recited it here several times. I am all for legal immigration and enforcing the laws and accountability and providing a pathway to citizenship and doing things the right way. All of that. The immigration debate is a debate we can have another day. But this was like just so transparent to me, Nick, that it was to take away from the discussion about the energy grid, right? When we were told it was in the best shape it had ever been after ice apocalypse back in the winter time. And so again, that whole kind of, you know, if I can't get away with the facts or if the facts don't fit my narrative, as in Governor Abbott, let me just go cater to the part of my base that will always be anti-immigrant and will rally around that. And hopefully they forget that it's hot as fuck out here in Texas, right?
And apparently getting hotter, not to go on a climate change type thing, but I was reading about the amount of energy from the sun that is reaching the earth on like a square meter basis. And it's like twice what it was some time ago because of less cloud cover and gases in the atmosphere, et cetera. But literally more energy from the sun is getting through. And, you know, all you got to do is go outside on a hot day and you can actually just feel that. And so obviously now affecting the grid. And you were just talking about getting to a point where you have to call bullshit, right? I mean, you got to call bullshit when they're telling you in the winter that the grid's built for the summer, and you get to the summer and it's failing just like it was in the winter, right? And then so where do you go from there? I saw one woman tweet that maybe they should rename ERCOT the uterus, and then they regulate it better.
The uterus is hilarious. I am going to read, and let me see if I can pull it up because I don't know that I have it handy, but I am going to read an email that was shared by a Miss Wendy M. Perez. She says, "Dear ERCOT, I am a thick female who needs AC. The heat outside my door is not the heat of my 1980s childhood. Back then, I didn't have boob sweat or thighs that love each other so much that they have to touch. I also know for sure this isn't the sun I laid out under. Slathered in baby oil, tanning midday sun beating down. This son is angry and on a diet and wasn't hugged as a child. My 1990s son was loved by two parents and went to a nice school and didn't have to know how to fight. 2021 sunshine goes to county and may have been to Huntsville regularly. 2021 sun has been handled. I say all this to tell you, ERCOT, me turning this thermostat to 78 during the day and 82 at night will never happen. Y'all better fire up the nuclear plant in Bay City. Y'all need to send your entire board to West Texas to take a collective breath and blow on the GD windmills to name, I think she meant GE, windmills to name a few ways to meet demand. Please tell downtown, the Galleria, the entire worthless city of Dallas to turn off the lights. Because Houston, we ain't doing it.
I think she meant GD, Gerardo. Shorthand for goddamn.
I think you're right, actually, Nick. It made me laugh. It made me laugh right now. Reading it again, it made me feel a little better. I'm glad it's not just me. I don't irk easy. But yeah, that irked me a little bit, right? It wasn't the thing. And then just to close that up here, then I read an article yesterday that neighbors in the Houston area are saying that in the middle of the night, their smart thermostats are being adjusted upwards, and so people are waking up boiling, like hot as all hell. And so there's a story, and I'll put a link up of a family, and they have a small child. She's 3 months old, and of course, babies dehydrate quickly, right? And so they wake up at 2:30, and baby's sweating, and everybody's hot, and the home doesn't cool quickly. And so they're like, "What the heck is going on?" And apparently, this is a thing that's been kind of going around, where they believe that the thermostats are being hacked, the smart thermostats, right? And so I found it interesting. Any thoughts on these companies who we know, obviously we give it to them, have control and can take over, just interfering? Like, that'd probably bother you, wouldn't it, Nick? You pay your bill, you pay your taxes, you do good work, you make an honest living, you take care of your family, you do all the things that you're supposed to do, and the government wants to come in and turn your shit up in the middle of the night.
Alexa, get my gun.
Climate change fighter, hunter, fight the Fed, Nick.
Yeah, look, I haven't seen this story. I don't know if those are, grid or utility connected or installed thermostats or not. I remembered when I lived in Baltimore, there was a mandated program to get the smart thermostats installed, and they were also installing the switches, the physical switches outside at the unit level, the AC unit level. That was not mandatory. That was an optional program. But if you opted into that program with the switch, they could physically cycle off your air conditioner at the source when they needed the power. And this is going back, it's been 4 years since I lived there. So that's, 4, 5, 6 years ago. But the thermostats were definitely provided by the utility and was not optional. And I think you ended up paying an increased fee on your bill if you didn't take the thermostat. I don't know how it is in Austin. And here in Spokane, there's one main utility, Vista. I believe that's a publicly traded company. And then there's a smaller co-op that services some of the rural areas. I'm in the co-op. And so I don't believe my thermostat is provided by the co-op, although, it is a smart thermostat and I can have the thing cycled, but I don't think it's internet connected. But I can certainly see that happening, right? Just like hacking of the pipeline, just hacking of the meat plant, just like other things. And, that benefits the utility. So you have to wonder who's behind that. That's not the Russia jacking the heat up, I don't think.
I don't think, and not to mention the government hacking to get, its Bitcoin back, right? for Colonial Pipeline. So, yeah, a lot of privacy issues and concerns there, stuff to get into.
But it's the things that, and stuff I was writing about 5 years ago, right? About don't get Alexa, right? I would never have one of those things in my house. And I know we all carry a smartphone in our pocket, but, I don't want my doorbell recorded in the front of my house all the time. Like, I just don't want that. You know what I mean? And so, I see these people who got the Ring doorbell connected to the Alexa playing, whatever, Spotify through the thermostat. I don't even know what's going on. And then it vibrates their toothbrush and other things, So,
and other things.
It's like,
what other things does it vibrate, Nick?
wait till those start getting hacked, because there's some like Wi-Fi controlled ones now as well.
I've heard. We'll put a link up.
We don't get a affiliate commission.
Well, Nick, you get a little bit older, and
Although I do know the gentleman, and now we're going to get really off topic, who was attempting to buy Pornhub. Have you seen that, Gerardo?
No, please enlighten me.
Oh my goodness! So Chuck Raffici.
Oh, say that 10 times. Chuck Raffici?
Yeah, Chuck Raffici. He's the co-founder of Tweed, essentially, which went on to become. He's the co-founder of Canopy Growth, which was the largest cannabis company in the world. He's since exited, and he went on to found another cannabis company called Auxley that I raised some money for while it was private. And so, I've spoken to Mr. Raffici. Anyway, he made a lot of money with Canopy Growth, obviously, and he's now got an investment fund that he's been looking to make acquisitions with. And Pornhub is apparently for sale. I didn't know this till this morning, but the Globe and Mail did an article about it. Apparently, back in May, it went for sale. Pornhub, I'm talking about, because you've seen these lawsuits about women alleging revenge porn and other things against Pornhub. And so, and I just read this today because I saw Chuck Raffici's name. So I read the article. The guy who was, I don't know if he was the owner or the president or the CEO, but let's say the guy in charge of Pornhub was building this big mansion in Canada. And the mansion got burned down while it was almost near completion, multi-million dollar mansion. And then a week after that, Pornhub went for sale. And then now Chuck Raffici is trying to buy it. I forget why we're even talking about this, but he's being coy. They interviewed him in the Globe and Mail, and he said we're investigating opportunities, but wouldn't say what it was. But I just thought that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. Any idea on the valuation? No, nothing mentioned. Nope. Okay, and I'm reading quickly here. By the way, if you guys want to Google Pornhub for sale, just fair warning, you're going to see some other things come up. So, but big business though. We were just talking about how a couple of weeks ago, porn is early adopter and things. That's insane. Absolutely. So I'm reading here. Pornhub. In addition to Pornhub, MindGeek. Another one of his ventures, I guess, retains a stacked portfolio of the following pornographic sites, which were instrumental in generating, get this, $460 million worth of revenue during the 2018 fiscal year. And man, they got them all. Here goes some of the titles. I don't know how we got on this, but PornMD, RedTube, YouPorn, Reality Kings, Digital Playground, Men.com, Sean Cody, random, Brazzers, Twisties, Why Not Buy.com, Nick, buy like B-I, not B-U-Y, Nick, Why Not Buy.com, Mofo's Network, Babes Network, MILF Hunter, MILF Next Door, Euro Sex Parties, Crazy College Girlfriends, Wicked.com, Adult.com, See My Wife. So, all right. Well, Mr. Raffici is apparently a very astute businessman, and I wish him all the best. And yeah, let's kudos to Pornhub for what appears to be a tight, pun intended, a tightening of restrictions on sex trafficking and the revenge porn. And I know that lawsuits had to happen to get that done, but they have adapted, and I'm all for if you want to have your OnlyFans. We've talked about that on the show. If you want to be a porn star, if you want whatever you want to do, have at it. But it's got to be consensual, and we absolutely should not be exploiting anybody in order to get off. We could soon be writing checks into a private deal, Gerardo. Nick, I would be first in line. because I've joked on here before, and because you put me onto this deal. There's a mushroom deal that we did, a psychedelics deal, I should say, and you can explain it if you want. We're gonna just continue veering off topic, but that's what we do. So anyhow, I would love to have a portfolio where, like Mr. Raffici, I'm able to make money from weed and psychedelics and porn or adult-friendly sites that are responsible. That would be wonderful. All of the things I was told were bad for you as a kid. Yeah. The sin portfolio. Yes, I would absolutely love to have a sin portfolio. I guess it's a big deal in Canada because Mr. Raffici was also Justin Trudeau's Liberal government CFO or something like that. And so there's a lot of, look at who our government leadership was, or their porn owners. There's people that want to own porn or, political stuff.
Yeah, he was the former CFO of Canada's Liberal Party. What an interesting resume.
It's interesting. He's an interesting gentleman. You can follow him on Twitter. He's active.
I plan on doing so. We'll put a link up to all the sites there. I know there's a couple of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds out there because you guys have sent some LinkedIn messages in the past, or CEOs have told me that their kids often listen to it, and then I apologize for my language and my sense of humor in advance, but apparently they keep coming back and listening. So we'll put a link up so that the kids have access to all these sites. Of course, if you're of legal age, right?
They got the Discovery Channel, don't they?
Get you with your Eminem lyrics. I like it. Well, let's pivot from smart thermostats, porn, and weed to the opposite of smart thermostats, which is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Are you familiar with Miss Greene, Nick?
Not on a personal level, but we've spoken about her on this podcast before, and how she was. What were we talking about? Was she equating masks with the Holocaust or something? I forget what we were talking about her for.
Well, the last time we talked about her is because she was running around saying that she was worried about Jewish lasers from space, and talked about 9/11 conspiracies and just a number of things. And for those that aren't familiar, Miss Greene is in the House of Representatives. She's an elected leader, as funny as that sounds. And she got her start in QAnon forums. And so she has come to be known
as all historically great people in Congress have.
Yes, as all historically great people in Congress have. So she got herself into some hot water because she equated having to wear a mask with the Holocaust. She said, this is as bad as the Holocaust. So she's on an apology tour, and the way she's going about the rollout here is she went and visited a museum. It was her decision, she says, on Monday, and offered an apology. So I want to give kudos to Miss Greene for owning this one and actually apologizing. Hopefully it's sincere, right? But she said she wanted to apologize for the comments made, the words that she said, remarks that I've made, she said, that I know are offensive. And for that, I'd like to apologize. I should own it. I made a mistake. So my worry here again is that she is an elected leader who apparently didn't know about the atrocity that was the Holocaust, right? You have to be kidding me, Nick. I didn't know there were adults that still didn't know about the Holocaust.
I don't know any personally, but sure, I definitely believe they exist. There's some characters out there. It was the I can't believe how long ago it was. It was like the 14th anniversary of the Miss South Carolina or Miss Teen South Carolina answering the question about why so many people in America couldn't find countries on a map. And the answer was just so incoherent that it went on to become what would be a meme, but we didn't call them memes back then, I don't think. And so I don't know if you remember that, but, that's sort of like the caliber, like Miss Teen South Carolina is like Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And she's popular amongst her people, amongst her party. She raised $3.2 million in her first 3 months in office, Nick.
They probably all got stimulus checks.
What else is going on in the world? There's a story that was interesting to me. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm going to go off topic again because I don't know why. It's Friday afternoon in the summer.
It's Friday.
People obviously got money. I'm not going to go back on the inflation thing, but I am going to go on maybe the Marjorie Taylor Greene supporter thing because we've talked about ammo on this podcast before, and how it was hard to get ammo, but now it's like really, really, really hard to get ammo. Like, I'm going on an elk trip this fall, and I have to have a certain caliber and weight bullet, not a lead bullet. I want, copper, something that's not. Anyway, so I have a couple boxes, and I was sighting my rifle the other week, and I found the one that I liked, and I went online this week to buy some more of the one that my rifle liked and that had the closest group, and cannot buy it. Like, cannot buy it. Nowhere. Not even like, there's a website called AmmoSeek where you can put in the caliber and it'll crawl the internet and find most any website that has that for sale. Cannot buy it. Literally the most restrictive results I've ever seen, to the point where there was only 2 different grain weights available in 7mm Rem Mag, and like the trash brands, literally nothing available. And all the websites you go to have like disclaimers at the top, like not even taking back orders. Some stores only doing physical sales in like brick and mortar stores. Anyway, people are buying ammo up, like buying it up.
Well, we talked last week, right? And we talked about the fact that
So supply chain stuff as well.
Yes, absolutely. We chatted last week. I wrote, I think 2 weeks ago, about how I think, it would be wise for those of you that haven't to stock up on some of the essentials, and obviously being able to defend yourself should be considered essential, yourself and your family. And so whether that's food or water or, toilet paper, I guess, if you're able to go and just have a little extra, folks, because, between rolling blackouts and government messing with thermostats and all the other craziness that's going on, it's probably wise to do that. We haven't, here we are 32 minutes into this podcast on a hot summer afternoon, and we haven't even talked about the mass shooting here in Austin, right? 14 people were shot. Most of them had nothing to do with the incident, right? And, it was heartbreaking. There was a gentleman that was 25 years old that was here visiting from New York. Austin is known for, and it's true most of the time. Most of my experiences in Austin have been a city that is friendly and welcoming and a great time and great for music and great for partying and active and healthy and productive. All the things that Austin, is pitched at. Have been things that I've experienced, and I love this place. I'll never leave here, if it keeps that character and that spirit, right? But this gentleman's visiting from New York, probably read the brochure, got pitched. Of course, I want to go to Austin. The lockdown's over. Let's get out there and have a great time. And he ends up being out on 6th Street, which is the main entertainment district here at night. Which, by the way, if you're coming to Austin, everybody from out of state, there's funner places to have a great time than 6th Street. 6th Street tends to be the place where all the fights happen after midnight and the occasional shooting. And in this case, that's exactly what ended up happening. There were 2 groups, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old, were a part of 2 different groups. Words were exchanged on what the hell these kids were doing out there at 1:32 in the morning with guns on them, both of them. And something was said. There was some history between the groups. One of them allegedly had been shot before in a small town called Killeen. And they seen each other, words exchanged. One pulled out a gun, another one pulled out a gun. They started firing in the middle of, a weekend crowd at 2 a.m. And 14 people end up being hit, including the gentleman who lost his life. And so it's going to likely continue. We said that it was going to be a hot summer. We said you could expect volatility, not just, in the markets, but also socially. And I think, unfortunately, my spidey senses are tingling on that front, Nick. And I think people should be careful. I think taking extra precautions is probably smart right about now. And I'll leave that there for now. But yeah, sad story. A lot of stories here in town about, a young lady that's learning to walk again. She might be paralyzed, shot on both legs. Again, not doing anything wrong, out there having a good time, minding her own business. And this ends up happening, right?
Yeah, it's tragic and terrible. I think I saw a headline, but I certainly hadn't read a story about it. Innocent bystanders, tragic to see. And my gut spidey senses going off as well. So yeah, we'll see how the summer unfolds.
Ammo up, everybody. If that's how you choose to protect yourself and your family. If it's a crossbow, get a crossbow. If it's a knife set, whatever you do, right? But yeah, I would absolutely be taking precautions ahead of what I think is going to be some more instability here in the U.S. Yeah, let's pivot back to a story that I was saying kind of caught my eye this week. There were 1,900 military firearms lost or stolen during the 2010s. Can you believe that, Nick?
I absolutely can.
Absolutely can. Do you believe that number is understated?
Oh gosh, I'm not qualified to opine, but I can certainly believe that there's lots of firearms missing.
You remember the billions of dollars? It was like hundreds of billions of dollars that the military lost the Department of Defense, and then like it was just never followed up on.
Yep.
And then I could go on a rant. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that there. I'm glad that the Associated Press, which is the group that did the research and finally got some numbers, did the article. We'll put a link up to the article. I don't think the rise of domestic extremist and white supremacist and radicals on the left and everything else that's going on, right? The polarization of America and the way that it's been filtering in and through the military and police departments. And, most of those times we're talking, disgruntled white males, right? Nick, we talked about this years ago. You did. You said that white males felt like they weren't being heard, right? Well, a lot of those white males, and we talked about this last week again, a lot of those white males are turning to, non-traditional means of venting, right? As in becoming domestic extremists. And so it was interesting to see President Biden come out and say that this is the number one threat to America right now, was domestic extremism. And as someone that lives in Texas, I can tell you it's somewhat comforting that at least it's on the radar, because it hasn't felt like it's been on the radar. And again, not picking on white males and not picking on black males or Mexican males, just fact-based extremism in all forms where the primary goal is violence and intimidation of innocent people is bullshit and should be stomped out. I don't care what color, background, or your income bracket or any of that stuff you are or where you lie. But yeah, no, it's good to see it's on the radar. It didn't feel like it had been on the radar for the past, several years, last 4 years. And it sure in the heck didn't feel like it was something that we even cared about as a country as far as government went, and the president when Trump was there, after the whole January 6th insurrection. So at least it's on the radar. You think it actually leads anywhere, Nick? Do you think they actually really have resources allocated towards this?
I doubt it. I saw another story yesterday where they were supposed to be funding, tuition scholarships for military members, and the system's been down for so long that these soldiers aren't able to get educated or pay their loans. It's like, you obviously have money to do that. Anyway, we wear the pins on our lapels, everybody in Congress, and we continue to have problems like this, not only squandering resources, but then not providing the resources necessary for the people who put their lives on the line to serve for the country, right? And then to your point about extremism, I think there's a lot of extremism everywhere. There's extreme wealth inequality. There's extreme amounts of poverty, extreme amounts of drug addiction and overdoses, and to that effect, you have to assume there's extreme amounts of desperation. And people are just getting bolder across the board, whether that's in the white collar professional world of people more comfortable leaving their jobs or quitting or telling their company they're not coming back into the office, all the way to the deadly extreme or deadly boldness of mass shooting, right? And so I think all those dynamics are in play and contributing to what we're seeing.
Agreed. Back to the markets before we close up, Nick. Anything out there that you're watching for this week? There does seem to have been a disconnect this week in the trading, and you mentioned the quadruple witching, right? That may have contributed to it, but between the gold moves and real rates, right? They actually diverged pretty significantly here after Wednesday. And so, do you think that correlation comes back? You think it's a blip? You think this dollar strength? You mentioned you thought it was temporary. Are you watching for that?
Yeah, I'm watching the dollar. We'll see how strong it can get on a very macro basis. Interested to see. I said, we're all preparing for what's coming next, and we don't know when it's going to come or what it's going to be. But I'm pretty sure some defensive mechanisms are going to do well, like utility style. And then I saw Nassim Nicholas Taleb quote this week about what the contrary to popular belief or opinion, what the initial best asset class is during an inflation. And he was saying that assets initially collapse. So the counterintuitive one of the best assets to have is cash, to be able to buy the things that initially collapse. And so I think a bit of dry powder is not a bad idea. And then also looking at uranium, which we finally got a pullback in a couple of the stocks. Not quite the one I'm looking for, but it was good to see them come back to earth a little bit, I guess, and make me a little bit more comfortable about wading more deeply into that sector. And again, a good pullback in like copper names. You saw me recommend Generation Mining this week. I've been waiting for that for a while. So like those are the things that I'm doing and looking at, I guess.
Yeah, and some names that are outperforming. Look, Cucho Copper just raised, $4 million, and it looks like they're cleaning that up really, really well. It looks like they have a strategic investor that is willing to come in and write a bigger check to actually get that project built. The stock is acting like it's headed to $1, right? And this in the midst of the copper pullback that we saw, it's 52-week high of 82 cents. It's at 60 cents. It had itself a heck of a week. This thing was at 50 cents just, a couple of weeks ago, a week and a half or two ago. So Cucho Copper's been outperforming. Opportunities in the space. There's a couple of names that have been absolutely hammered. Revival Gold sold off pretty on pretty good volume too. Somebody sold something. It was at 76 cents last week, closed at 66 cents. That gold isn't going anywhere, right? And there's more to be found. They're cashed up. They're drilling. One of the best teams in the space. I'd look at Revival Gold if you have patient capital that believes inflation is not transitory and gold's headed higher. And then it seems like the Peruvian names, the Chicana Coppers, which has been taken to the woodshed and holding, the Chicana Coppers and the Regulus Resources and the Hannon Metals. It seems like they've found their bottom. It seems like whatever is priced in as far as a Castillo victory goes, it feels like this is it. The charts say this is it. What do you think, Nick? Good entry point. You were smarter than I. You took profits in Chicana Copper and projected those gains back at the 42 cent level, if I'm not mistaken.
I think the Hannon chart looks really good. Put in a classic bottom there right around 29 cents, if I remember correctly. And we'll have some cash coming in from warrants. It's got it. I forget, 22 or 25 cents.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think that's it for Hannon. I haven't looked too closely at Chicana in the past couple of days, but yes, on the chart for Hannon for sure.
Excellent. Yeah. So names worth looking at. We didn't even talk crypto. I just tweeted Babes in Crypto Land right now and asked her if we're still going to the moon. So I'll let you know what Babes in Crypto Land responds with, right? And she's an excellent follow on Twitter, by the way. Jokes aside, she's on it. She's on point. The content is engaging. It's brief. It's quick, and she loves the space. But I'm definitely no crypto expert, Nick. You have more experience on that front. You're a better chartist as well. Because
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm not much of a chartist, so trust me, you're a better chartist than I am. I know who to call and I know who to ask, but I'm not it.
We started the week with Elon Musk tweet is how we started the week, right?
Yep.
Or Elon Musk saying that it's like a yo-yo, right? We're not taking Bitcoin, we're taking Bitcoin. Tesla's again looking at Bitcoin if it can, clean up its renewable energy profile or whatever, and so that sends it back to 40. That was earlier this week. At last check today, he was getting whipsawed like everything else at around $35,000
Yep.
for the Bitcoin. So still volatile. There is what I would say. Volatility escalated or high for cryptos and still relatively low for equities.
All my favorite coins are down. Uniswaps, Poppy swaps.
Well, the World Bank pushed back also on El Salvador and said, So, everything's playing out.
Cum rockets are down. Holy smokes. Everything's getting taken to the woodshed. Yeah, no, interesting week in the crypto space. We'll keep an eye on that. I think long term, again, we've talked about this before, so I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think the better, more quality names like the Bitcoins, like the Ethereums, have a bright future. And I think it's a heck of an opportunity at these levels, but doesn't mean they can't get cut in half before that next run up, right?
I'm sure they'll be incorporated in the MindGeek deal somehow.
I love it. Nick, by the time everyone listens to this, Father's Day would have passed. I want to wish you a happy Father's Day, and everybody out there that does the work that you sign up for when you bring a kid into the world. Happy Father's Day, Nick. Hope you had a good one.
You too, Gerardo. Good father yourself, and I hope you had and have a good weekend. Make sure you call your dad, everyone. I'll be doing the same, and we'll see you again here next week.
Awesome. That's all we got for this week. This was episode 122 of Bizarro World. I am Gerardo Del Real. It's been fun hanging out with you, Mr. Nick Hodge. Say goodbye for us.
See ya.